Sweat one out, right? It was nice to come in and to have high energy, right? To play together, to continue to build on a lead. Ty?
Watch that carefully. That's Stephanie White talking about Ty Harris after a dominant win over the LA Sparks. Notice the emotion in her voice and the way she lights up while praising a role player for one strong performance. Now keep that same energy in mind, because what you're about to see reveals a pattern Indiana Fever fans have been pointing out for months. Once you see the contrast, it becomes impossible to ignore. A world of trouble.
You know what's funny?
Now, Sophie Cunningham kind of throws Brianne January under the bus yesterday on her podcast, and the Fitness Mercury as well.
So
let's listen.
Okay. We are not going to win very many games when people score 100 points on us, and they average, I think, around 80 points, and we let them score like 111. Our defense is.
Kelsey Mitchell just threw her own defensive coordinator under the bus during a podcast. She said the team's defense has been horrible, that they're allowing 111 points per game while the league average is around 80, and that everyone knows it. This is a player publicly calling out the coaching staff on her own team. But here's what makes it even more significant. Mitchell specifically mentioned who runs the defense: Brianne January, the defensive specialist Stephanie White brought in. According to multiple reports from fans who attended games in Indianapolis, this team has become what one observer called the unfriendliest group in the league this season.
There, Alyssa Thomas in them. Now, this was Charles Barkley's
cannot have
resurfaced.
This, ladies, and I'm a WNBA fan, they cannot have this Caitlin Clark thing up any worse if they tried. This girl is incredible. The number of attention, eyeballs she's brought to college and the pros, and for these women to have this petty...
That's Charles Barkley talking about Caitlin Clark's rookie year, and he nailed it. The WNBA couldn't have handled the Caitlin Clark situation any worse if it had tried. Petty jealousy, physical targeting, and constant negativity. But here's what has changed. We're now in year 2, and instead of the league being the problem, it's her own coach. Stephanie White was supposed to be the hometown hero who understood Indiana basketball. Instead, she has created an environment where the biggest star in women's basketball looks miserable, where teammates are publicly criticizing coaching decisions, and where the body language tells a story the organization doesn't want you to see.
Of tears talking about Ty Harris' performance tonight before they cut off the clip. Meanwhile, when it comes to praising Caitlin Clark, every compliment sounds like it's being given under duress or gets turned into a group project. The contrast is hard.
That's from a fan account that has been tracking this all season. The observation is brutal, but it's hard to ignore. Stephanie White gets emotional while praising Ty Harris, yet every compliment she gives Caitlin Clark sounds like it's being delivered under duress. It quickly turns into a group effort, with the praise redirected to the team or overshadowed by criticism. And once you notice this pattern, you can't unsee it. Every press conference and every post-game interview make the favoritism appear even more obvious.
It wouldn't be an issue if she treated everyone on the team the same. The problem is the double standard. From my perspective, CeCe often shoulders the blame after losses while other players receive more grace. Even the praise feels different. Stephanie White has shown visible emotion when talking about some players, but with Clark, even when she has a huge night, the compliments often come across as restrained, quickly redirected to the team or overshadowed by criticism. The favoritism shows is difficult to ignore. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that is something that we all...
Read that again. It wouldn't be an issue if she treated every player on the team the same. The problem is the double standard. Caitlin Clark often shoulders the blame after losses, while other players receive far more grace. Even the praise feels different. Stephanie White shows visible emotion when talking about certain players, but with Clark, even after a huge performance, the compliments come across as restrained. This is no longer just one fan's opinion. It has become a pattern that hundreds of observers say they've noticed throughout the season, and the evidence continues to grow. Before her back injury, Caitlin was averaging nearly 20 points per game, putting up MVP caliber numbers and carrying the team on both ends of the floor. You would think a coach would be thrilled with that level of performance, but watch any Fever press conference, and the difference in Stephanie White's energy when discussing Caitlin compared to almost anyone else tells its own story.
Hey, Caitlin, somebody said correct, another Oscar performance. This is legitimately effing insane. If you ever been charged in multiple people, you know that different things motivate different people. Now, it's certain people that's still on the Stephanie White bandwagon. Like I told y'all, when I went to Indianapolis, they definitely have a basketball city of their own. And they definitely have a lot of fans that's outside of Caitlin Clark fans, and that is the Indiana Fever fans.
Here's where things get more complicated. When the creator of this content traveled to Indianapolis and interviewed Fever fans at games, he discovered something important. There's a clear divide between online fans and local Indianapolis supporters. Many people in Indiana continue to back Stephanie White no matter what. She's their hometown hero, a former Fever player, and someone they believe understands Indiana basketball culture. He interviewed several fans who defended her, and the level of local support compared with the criticism online was completely different. So, we're looking at two very different fan bases. The national audience that follows Caitlin Clark notices the body language, the perceived favoritism, and the uncomfortable press conferences. Meanwhile, the local Indianapolis fan base sees a coach who represents their city and its basketball tradition. That divide makes it extremely difficult for the Fever front office to make a clean decision because, no matter what they do, they risk alienating a significant portion of their fan base.
Now, I can't put the interview out because I would have to downplay the fans, but to me, they're entitled to their opinions, and it was
And that prediction may come true sooner than anyone expected. Multiple signs suggest that Stephanie White's tenure in Indiana could be nearing its end. The creator said he's about 60% confident she'll be gone after the season, and the evidence continues to build. Team chemistry issues, players publicly criticizing coaching decisions, historically poor defensive performances despite hiring a defensive specialist, and most damaging of all, the visible disconnect between the franchise player and the head coach all point in the same direction.
Nearly 20 points a game, and it was just a beautiful situation for Caitlin Clark, MVP type season. And to me personally, you would think your coach will be a little emotional about that type of performance. Well, I'm here to tell you, the writing just might.
Let's go back to where this all started. Before Caitlin Clark's back injury, she was averaging nearly 20 points per game, MVP-level numbers. That's the kind of situation any coach would love to have. Yet when you watch Stephanie White discuss those performances, there's little genuine excitement, no visible pride, and no sense that she's coaching a generational talent who is transforming the franchise. Now compare that to the way she talks about Ty Harris after one solid game. The emotion is immediate, authentic, and enthusiastic. That's the kind of energy you would expect a coach to show when discussing a star player averaging nearly 20 points a night. But with Caitlin, the praise often feels measured, qualified, and quickly redirected toward team concepts or the contributions of other players. Here's what makes this especially concerning for the Fever organization. They're not just dealing with a coaching issue, they're facing an identity crisis that threatens the foundation they've built around Caitlin Clark. Think about everything Indiana has invested in her. The team built its marketing strategy around Clark. Attendance surged. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. National television coverage increased dramatically. The Fever went from being a struggling franchise to one of the most watched teams in the WNBA, largely because of one player. Now that same player appears to be in a situation where her own coach seems unable or unwilling to show genuine enthusiasm for her success. The comments Kelsey Mitchell made on the podcast reveal how deep these concerns may run. When a veteran player feels comfortable publicly criticizing the team's defensive system and specifically questioning coaching decisions, that goes beyond basketball. It points to potential culture issues. It suggests some players may not feel heard, may not fully trust the system, or may have doubts about the coaching staff's ability to fix what isn't working. The defensive numbers only add to that conversation. Giving up 111 points per game when the league average is closer to 80 is not a minor difference. That represents a significant defensive problem. Whether it reflects an ineffective scheme or a team struggling to fully buy into the system, it raises difficult questions about the coaching staff's performance. But the bigger question is this: how did things reach this point? Stephanie White arrived with strong credentials. She's a former WNBA player, a former Indiana Fever player, and someone deeply connected to Indiana basketball culture. She had previous coaching experience and was widely viewed as an ideal fit for both the franchise and the market. So what changed? Some observers believe she never fully embraced building the team around Caitlin Clark. Others think she may have wanted to prove she could develop the entire roster instead of relying on one superstar. It's also possible she genuinely believes in an approach where no player receives special treatment, even if that player has become the face of the franchise. Whatever the reason, many fans believe the end result looks the same, a visible disconnect that has become increasingly difficult to ignore. Body language often shapes public perception. When Stephanie White speaks about Caitlin Clark, some viewers believe there's a noticeable stiffness or formality, as though she's saying the right things without expressing genuine enthusiasm. In the age of social media, where every press conference is analyzed frame by frame, those moments quickly become discussion points and fuel ongoing debate. Charles Barkley's comments from Caitlin Clark's rookie season remain relevant because many believe the underlying issue hasn't completely disappeared. Clark has brought unprecedented attention to the WNBA, yet some fans feel that, instead of fully embracing her impact, there is still resistance, skepticism, or an effort to spread the spotlight elsewhere and emphasize that basketball is ultimately a team game. And, of course, basketball is a team sport. No one disputes that. But great coaches understand how to celebrate a star player while maintaining strong team chemistry. They know how to recognize individual excellence without diminishing the importance of the group. They make their best player feel valued while keeping everyone else engaged. Many critics believe Stephanie White has struggled to find that balance, and they argue the effects are becoming increasingly visible. Attendance trends have also become part of the conversation. The creator noted that the game against the LA Sparks appeared to have noticeably lower energy and attendance than earlier in the season. For a team that was regularly selling out arenas, some fans view that as a warning sign. Combined with on-court struggles and ongoing coaching criticism, it creates the perception of a franchise moving in the wrong direction despite having one of the league's biggest stars. This is where the divide between local Indianapolis fans and Caitlin Clark's national fanbase becomes especially important. If the Fever decide to move on from Stephanie White, they risk upsetting longtime supporters who see her as one of their own. But if they keep her, they risk frustrating the large national audience that began following the team because of Caitlin Clark and questions why her coach often appears restrained when discussing her performances. It's a difficult decision for the front office. Do you prioritize the loyal local fan base that has supported the franchise for years, or the rapidly growing national audience that is driving television ratings, sponsorships, and revenue? Do you stand by a coach who represents Indiana basketball tradition, or do you look for someone who can better maximize your franchise players' talent and overall experience? The prediction that Stephanie White could be gone after this season feels increasingly believable to many observers. They point to the ongoing body language discussions, persistent defensive struggles, public criticism from players, and the perception that the franchise's biggest star does not appear fully comfortable in the current environment. So here's the question.